SOS, my orchid's dying. I've been doing everything right and still it's looking terrible. It's drying out and it just wants to die. Today I'm going to show you what's going on and an easy solution on how to fix it. Let's get straight to it, and welcome to the Nature Company. So today we're going to be showing you what exactly is happening with your orchids when they start looking like they're drying and dying, even though you've been watering and feeding and looking after them wonderfully. There's one small thing you're forgetting to do. So let's go through everything step by step. Okay, we'll just go through some of the things that are happening to your orchid. We notice all the pseudobulbs seem to be drying out. The new growth seems to be getting smaller and smaller. We see this white that's in and around the media. Dead, dying pseudobulbs, dried out leaves. Just looks like it's rotting and falling apart. Strong plant with what looks like nice new strong growth, but still it looks like it's wilting. And the media is still moist. Yellowing tips. Okay, this is all from excess feeding. The salt buildup in the media. This is causing nutritional problems. Also, easy to see here, it's just dried up all the roots. So what's happening is the salts, especially with your cattleyas, the excess salts just dry up and kill the roots. Cattleyas are particularly susceptible to excess salt and it can kill them quite quickly. So how are we going to sort this out? Well, quite easily. It's going to just be with plain old water. What we're going to be using, if we can, we're going to be using rainwater. If you can't get hold of rainwater, distilled water is also a good idea. And if you still can't get hold of distilled water, then just plain old tap water will probably do the trick as well. It's because the amount of salts in this media is way exceeding what's going to be in your hard tap water anyway. So let's just show you how we're going to be doing this. So here we'll just fill up from our rainwater tank. Okay, now especially in cases like this where the salts have already crystallized on the surface, what we're going to be doing is flushing the water through, but we're going to allow it to soak. If it got to this sort of point, we would repot using fresh media, but if you're short of media, just to try and remedy the problem as quickly as possible without repotting, is allow it to soak, dissolving the excess salts, which we can then pour away, and then we'll flush the media again to ensure that any of those left are also pulled out of the media. So we're not going to be feeding this orchid again terribly soon. We're going to allow it to try and recover and produce new roots. What happens in the media with these excess salts is that the salts themselves then start drawing water away from the roots. It's just the natural process of osmosis that happens, where the water is always attracted to the area where the higher salt solution is. And at the moment here, I'm afraid it's in the media, and we've got to try and get rid of that. So flushing is the only way that we're going to be able to remove the salts from this media and get your plant to regain a bit of its strength. So generally we'll allow this to soak for between 15 and 20 minutes and then drain it out. This water with the excess salts in, we can then use to actually feed other pot plants in our garden, because it is going to be a fairly rich nutrient solution which is going to help them grow. Okay, and then all we're going to do from this point then is flush straight through. So this is going to flush out these excess salts. It's difficult to give a timing on this. It will all depend on the media that you've got in, how fast draining it is, how bad the salt solution problem was in the media. But as long as you've given it a good flush, you can always check again once the media's dried out. Check that there is, sorry about that, once the media's dried out, you check that there's no more of those white salt congregations on top of the media, and then at least you know you've stopped the problem in its tracks, and then you can get back to repotting it in fresh media as soon as you are able. Okay, so here we go again, just allowing the water to flow through the media, and we're going to be soaking it again just to ensure that the salts have dissolved properly. These salts are often the nutrient solution that you're feeding your plants. So all the inorganic plant foods, including these Osmocote, are all produced using inorganic salts, and this is what builds up on the top of your media if you're overfeeding. So generally for orchids, you would rather prefer to underfeed than overfeed, and I prefer to go with the organic route, but still with the organic fertilizers you can still overfeed and get nutrient solution overdoses in your media, although they might not show up in the same way as these salt deposits. Draining it out, and then again flush out the dissolved salts. Again, repotting is not always necessary, but generally a good idea. And I'm afraid this is how a lot of orchids are killed, by being overloved. Try not to overfeed your plants, even if you're using organic fertilizers, and a good idea is to flush them out at least once a month to make sure that you're getting rid of any of those excess salts that might be congregating in the pots and not being used by the orchid. This will allow your roots to stay healthy, and by keeping your roots healthy you can have a good strong plant. And also, the excess salts in your media cause the media to decompose quicker, and thus making you have to repot your orchids more frequently. So let's keep your feeding to a minimum and your plant's health to a maximum. Thanks for watching, and if you found any of this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe down below if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell, bing bong, to be notified of any of our upcoming videos. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow.